Welcome in to the weekly Main Street Media TV high school football wrap-up show. We'll be checking into all corners of Middle Tennessee, where our sports editors and our sports reporters will share with us how each team from Main Street Media coverage areas did on the football field last week. If you're seeing this in Middle Tennessee, chances are Main Street Media has a newspaper that serves your community. So go to mainstreetmediatn.com to find the local Main Street paper in your area. When you find it, you may just sign up for a subscription to keep up with all the news and sports coverage we've got lined up for you. Okay, let's get this week's high school football wrap started and head on over to Wade Neely in western Middle Tennessee.
What's up, folks? Wade Neely here. I am your sports editor over in Hickman County, Dickson County, and Cheatham County. And it's time for a wrap-up of what we saw on the Gridiron Friday night across our coverage areas. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, it was a light slate last week as a lot of folks and a lot of teams got their buys out of the week, open dates for virtually every one of our programs, except for two. And so we'll talk about them here on our segment here this afternoon. And we begin with Hickman County. We broadcast this game on Main Street Media Radio. Yours truly was on hand in Centerville. And folks, nothing really went right from the jump for Hickman County in a 41-3 loss to a really talented East Nashville team. East Nashville, a 3A powerhouse, moving down to 2A. That's a bad recipe for Hickman County. And they also turned it over 5 times in the first half. A couple of fake punts went awry to start the game. A couple of times they turned it over on downs. And all occasions led to points as East Nashville took a big lead early, tacked on a touchdown in the second half. It was 34-3 at the break. They end up winning at 41-3. Hickman County falls in that one at home. But again, thanks to our friends at Hickman County High School, though, for having us out at what was a pleasant night, even though the final score was not what Hickman County would have liked. Meanwhile, things weren't necessarily that much better for East Hickman. It was a non-region game, which is maybe the only positive if you're a fan of the Eagles. But your squad has lost 4 games in a row, and it was a tough one Friday night as an old rival of theirs, Mount Pleasant, roughed them up. 36-6 was your final score in that one as Coach Austin's bunch, again, drops 4 in a row. They're now 2-5 on the season. So kind of a grim picture from Friday night for Hickman County and East Hickman. However, hope springs eternal because one of those teams is going to go to the playoffs, and it all comes down to a matchup this Friday night as those 2 teams will get it on. It's going to be a fun one in Centerville, and looking forward to a good ball game on Friday. So I'll save more on that for later in the week as we preview our Week 9 contest. But for now, we can tell you that Hickman County and East Hickman both fell Friday night. All of our squads in Dickson County and Cheatham County were off. Everybody's back in action, though, this week. It's going to be fun, folks, and make sure you check it out. Hickman County Times, Dickson Post, Cheatham County Exchange, and MainStreetPreps.com. Wade Neely saying so long for now.
Thank you, Wade. We've got some amazing sponsors, so let's take a moment to hear from them.
He shoots, and he scores!
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Welcome back, and Maurice Patton is here to tell us all about the action down in southern Middle Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Maurice Patton down here in southern Middle Tennessee with our Week 9 wrap-ups. Let's start with a little free football over at Lindsey Nelson Stadium on Friday night. Columbia Central got an early scoop and score out of Toriano Baldwin to stay with Lincoln County in a big Region 4-5A matchup, but it was Jamari Brown late scoring a receiving touchdown to tie things up and force overtime, scoring a rushing touchdown, and with Elijah Raymer's extra point, the Lions pick up a 28-27 overtime victory over Lincoln County again in Region 4-5A action, putting themselves pretty much in the driver's seat for a region championship. 3-0 in region play, 4-3 overall are the Lions heading down the stretch here. Big win there at home. Lincoln County falling to 6-2, 1-1 in region play. North of Columbia on Friday night, big rivalry matchup between Spring Hill and Battle Creek didn't quite play out. Lionel Brooks, 255 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns on 20 carries as the Raiders take care of business at home against their crosstown rivals, the Grizzlies, 35-0 the final there. Brooks with touchdowns of 1, 65, 51, and 47 yards in that Raider victory, which also puts them in pretty much a home playoff situation as they head down the stretch here. The Raiders improving to 3-4 overall, but 2-0 in Region 5-4A. So big win, not just from a rivalry standpoint, but from a postseason standpoint for the Raiders with that 35-0 win over Battle Creek. The Grizzlies falling to 2-6 overall, 1-3 in region play. Mount Pleasant steps out of region play, but picks up another big win, 36-6 over East Hickman. The Tigers improving to 7-1 with their 5th straight win. Cale Scott, pinpoint accuracy, 14 of 17 for 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those to J.P. Easterling for 69 yards. One of those to Peyton Niehaus for 35 yards. Easterling 2 catches for 106 yards total. Niehaus 3 for 46. Again, Mount Pleasant improving to 7-1 with their 5th straight win, 36-6 over East Hickman. The Eagles falling to 2-5. Speaking of Eagles, it was a flock of them up in Antioch on Friday night. Ezel Harding, though, picking up the 40-17 win over Zion Christian. Ezel improving to 5-3 with that win. Zion Christian, with their 3-game win streak snapped there, falling to 3-4. They did get an 80-yard kickoff return, though, Zion Christian did, from Trey Johnson, and Kingston Denny threw for 147 yards and a touchdown in that loss. Again, Ezel Harding defeating Zion Christian on the road, 40-17. Nashville Christian comes to Columbia in a rematch of the Division IIA state championship game from last year. A little tough outcome for the host Bulldogs in this one, though. Nashville Christian improves to 8-0 with a 70-0 victory over CA. Georgia commitment Jared Curtis, 232 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 in the third quarter. Columbia Academy finishes with 57 total offensive yards. Again, no Aiden Honeycutt in action for the Bulldogs in that one. Nashville Christian 70, Columbia Academy nothing. CA falls to 1-7 with the loss. Lawrence County, huge win over Franklin County in Region 4-5A action. The Wildcats 52-7 in that one. First region win for the Wildcats. They improved to 6-2 on the season, 1-2 in region play with that win. Logan Clayton, 6 of 7 in the passing game for 138 yards and a touchdown. Also ran for a touchdown. Gage Smith on the defensive side of the ball with an interception and a fumble return to help key again that 52-7 Lawrence County win over at Franklin County. Franklin County falls to 1-7 on the season, 0-2 in league play with that loss. In Region 5-2A action, Loretto fell at Adamsville 35-7. Adamsville improves to 5-2, 2-2 in league play. Loretto falls to 2-6. 1-4 in the region, despite 69 rushing yards from Colby Brown, who, after an Andrew Riley 70-yard kickoff return, scored a late touchdown to get Loretto on the board. The Mustangs have now lost their last 3. Richland with a 30-10 win over Summertown, non-region matchup there. It was Richland's 4th win against larger foes. Richland plays in Class 1A. They have beaten Spring Hill, White House Heritage, and Community, all bigger schools, prior to this win over Summertown. Again, Richland 30, Summertown 10. A.J. Bates with a 45-yard field goal for the Raiders, and also a rushing touchdown later in the game. Jake Sands rushed for 78 yards and scored twice. Summertown rushes for 207 yards in that loss. 30-10, Richland over Summertown, the final there. Again, Richland 6-2, Summertown falls to 4-4. Giles County picks up a big win on the road as well, 47-21 out at Jackson Northside. Pearson Collier, 231 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns on 28 carries. In other words, 1 out of every 4.5 carries went to the house for Pearson Collier. 1, 4, 30, 10, 17, and 1 were the lengths of his touchdowns. Xavier Randolph also threw for 157 yards and a 67-yard touchdown pass to Damari Allen, who had 3 catches for 94 yards in Giles County's 47-21 win at Jackson Northside. Giles County wins its 4th straight game, improves to 5-3 on the season. Jackson Northside falls to 5-3 with the loss. Summit goes on the road to Coffee County, picks up a big Region 6-6A victory as the Spartans 35, Coffee County 21, snaps a 6-game skid for the Spartans, who improved to 2-6 on the year, 1-3 in region play. Coffee County also 2-6, 1-3 with that outcome. Summit quarterback Davis Smith rushes for a 26-yard touchdown, throws for a couple of touchdown passes to Michael Crutcher, finishes with 183 total yards for Summit. Charles Williams adds 84 rushing yards for the Spartans in that 35-21 road win at Coffee County. And finally, it's Page downing Independence 34-14. Independence falls to 3-4 with that loss. Page stays unbeaten at 7-0 with the win. Independence will have 14-7 at the half. Got rushing touchdowns from Hunter Mullen and Eli Garlington in the first half, but Cameron Cruz came back, threw for 3 touchdowns for Page in the second half, and Isaac Odie added a touchdown run. Again, Page 34, Independence 14, the final there. Page stays unbeaten at 7-0. Independence falls to 3-4 with the non-region loss. That's going to do it from Southern Middle Tennessee. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll see y'all later this week.
Thank you, Maurice. Now here's Calvin White in Northwest Middle Tennessee.
Hello, everybody. This is Calvin White, Northwest Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps. Here to give you a quick recap of all of the Week 9 football coverage in Montgomery, Robertson, and Houston County. There were no games in Montgomery or Houston County this week, but there was one game in the Robertson County area. White House was hosting Liberty Creek. The Blue Devils beat Liberty Creek 35-14 to get back to 500 and pick up their 4th win of the year. Quarterback Jaden Schultz threw a touchdown to Rucker Sample early in the first quarter to put the Blue Devils on the board first. Running back Jake Soporowski ran for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns in this one. Rucker Sample also returned an interception for a touchdown in the game. As I said, White House gets back to 500 at 4-4 with 2 region games remaining on their schedule in the regular season. We'll pick up all of our Northwest region coverage next week when everybody is back in action. But for now, I'm Calvin White, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Calvin. We're going to stop here for just a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
When the arena lights dim for a concert, or when the crowd becomes one at a big game, you can almost feel like you're the biggest fan. But who's your biggest fan? It's the person that will get you home safely after a night of drinking. It's the person who looks out for your life to make sure you leave the stadium with someone sober. This could be a designated driver or someone who offers to get you a ride share. Because in Tennessee, fans don't let fans drive drunk. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, a division of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security.
And we are back, and we're ready to go over to Blaine Kellar in North Central Middle Tennessee.
Sumner County had some big-time rushing performances out of the bye week. I'm North Central Regional Sports Editor Blaine, Kellar here to break those down and give you some other scores from Sumner, Davidson, and Williamson counties. As always, you can find this content on MainStreetPreps.com. Check us out online or in print. The Gallatin News, the Hendersonville Standard, the Portland Sun, and Main Street Nashville. I mentioned the big rushing performances. Check out the stat lines from the ground game in Sumner County, starting with the game that made its return, a big rivalry in Sumner County. Beach winning 62-29 against the Gallatin Green Wave. DK Williams, filling in for ETSU running back commitment Shelton Swafford, rushed for 5 touchdowns, the most he said since he was in 8th grade. And Kentucky baseball commitment Caden Powell accounted for over 300 all-purpose yards and a few scores for the Buccaneers. This was a close game. Late in the second quarter, Beach scores twice with less than 4 minutes left in the second quarter. Scores on, I believe, 5 straight drives to start the second half to really separate itself from a Gallatin team that came in pretty well prepared despite being without quarterback Jackson Stroud. So big rushing performance by Beach. How about an even bigger one out of Hendersonville? Tate Rumney rushes for over 300 yards for the Commandos as they defeat Station Camp 37-36 in the MyTV30 game of the week. Station Camp led this game 17-0 on the road, but the Commandos tied it at 17, tied it again at 24, tied it again at 30, and going into overtime. Rumney's offensive performance a big part of the scores there. The Commandos' defense also coming up big on the last play. Station Camp elects to go for 2 to try to win the game. Hendersonville picks up another big region win, avoids that last place playoff spot in the league standings. Station Camp continues its losing streak, now at 3-4 after an undefeated start to the year at 3-0. White House won its homecoming, not in the traditional sense. Its game against Liberty Creek as former head coach Ryan Hamilton returned as an assistant for Liberty Creek and the Wolves. White House winning that game 35-14. Westmoreland also picking up a 27-13 win against Stratford, continuing its chase for a region championship. 2 more scores out of Sumner County, both losses, also both involving Williamson and Davidson private schools. Portland fell 21-6 at home to Davidson Academy as the Bears snapped a 3-game skid. Ronald Moore Jr. and Ridge Holman, a big part of the bounce back for Davidson Academy, and the Bears winning 21-6 against the Portland Panthers. A really impressive win for DA. And then how about quarterback Caden Marable of BGA, missing 1 pass on the night, totaling 5 touchdowns for the Wildcats. It's just a normal night for him, it seems. BGA and Bobby Bentley improving their 1-loss record with a 56-14 win against JP2. Rock Batten's team with a not-so-great result coming out of the bye. They've got a chance to rebound the Knights do against Columbia Central this coming Friday. But that's the preview show. We're still on the wrap-up show, here to wrap up the rest of the scores and more from Davidson and Williamson counties. Gave you a few there. Continuing on with Williamson, Brentwood improved to 5-3 overall and remained perfect in its region schedule with a 21-14 win over Franklin, a big one by the Bruins. They're winning games when it matters. Lastly, Nolensville wins 26-14 against Centennial. The Knights started their season really late in mid-April with new coach Scott Stidham, as our Jack Williams writes, but they have remained near the top of the region standings, still perfect in league play after defeating the Cougars. That sets up a huge region championship match at the end of the season against none other than Page. Be sure to stay with us in a few weeks for that one. Be sure to stay with us online, MainStreetPreps.com, in print, the Hendersonville Standard, Gallatin News, Main Street Nashville, Portland Sun. Be sure to stick with us in a couple of days as we do our preview show. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Blaine. And here's David Wilson in East Middle Tennessee to wrap us up this week.
Everybody, this is David Wilson, East Middle Tennessee Regional Sports Editor for Main Street Preps. Here to give you a quick recap of all the Week 9 games across Wilson and Rutherford County this week. We'll start things off in Wilson County, where a battle for first place in the Region 4-6 state standings was on the line in Mount Juliet this past week, as undefeated Lebanon walked into the nest and onto the hill to face 5-2 Green Hill. And it was Green Hill picking up a touchdown from quarterback Cannon Burrows with 32 seconds remaining to hand Lebanon its first loss of the season. It was Green Hill 22, Lebanon 15. Cannon Burrows had 2 rushing touchdowns, and this one in the second quarter, and the aforementioned game winner late in the fourth quarter. Zach Cartwright also had a rushing touchdown in the first quarter for Green Hill. For Lebanon, they fell short, of their first 8-0 start since 1965. It was Gian Azita, though, 219 yards rushing for the Blue Devils and 2 touchdowns in this one. They will look to regain some momentum next week as they head to Gallatin. Staying in Region 4-6A, it was Mount Juliet continuing its streak over Wilson Central. The Golden Bears picked up their 17th straight win over the Wildcats Friday night in Gladeville. It was Mount Juliet 30, Wilson Central nothing. The Golden Bears picked up 2 defensive scores in this one, fumble recoveries, and then Tate Marabitz did his thing with the leg during special teams, kicked a couple field goals to help the Golden Bears pick up their second win of the season. They will fight for a playoff spot this upcoming week against Cookeville. Moving to Division II, Single A in the middle region, it was Friendship Christian keeping pace with Nashville Christian in those standings. It was the Commanders 31 and Franklin Christian, 31-10 for the Commanders this past week. Jaden McGowan, running back for Friendship Christian, 15 carries for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this one, Blake Waldorf also had a rushing touchdown in this one, and also threw a passing score as well. And then rounding it out in Class 3A in the Region 4 3A, it was Watertown trying to continue its hopes of having a home playoff game. They defeated Cascade this past weekend 30-9. It was Gary Davis going over 300 total yards for the Watertown Purple Tigers and picking up 3 scores in that one. In Rutherford County, as we continue on, it was Oakland picking up a 56-0 win over Laverne. It was Blackman downing Smyrna 35-7. Riverdale defeated Siegel 37-0. Stewart's Creek picked up a win over visiting Knoxville Webb 49-26. It was Rockville in a shootout, a lot of fireworks in this one, defeating Tullahoma 37-36. It was MTCS beating Tipton Rosemark 35-28. It was Eagleville all over Huntland 47-7. It was PCA defeating Providence Academy 49-14. That'll do it on this week's edition of the Wrap Up. Looking forward to talking to you guys a little next week.
And that is this week's high school football wrap-up show. Now, don't forget that Main Street Media TV has football-based shows for high school, college, and the pros lined up for you this season. You can find everything you need to know on your local newspaper's social media pages or by downloading the Main Street Media TV app. And remember that Main Street Media Radio gets your high school football started each week with our Thursday night Game of the Week audio broadcast featuring Wade Neely and Casey Patrick. They will be on the call across Middle Tennessee this season, and you can catch them Thursday nights starting at 6:45 p.m. Also, set your calendar for our weekly high school preview show featuring these same sports editors and sports reporters who are on the field each week, sharing your favorite team's action from the sideline. The preview show is scheduled for every Thursday at 1 p.m. during high school football season. All right, we'll see you right back here next Tuesday with the high school football wrap-up show on Main Street Media TV.